Warm morning sunlight spills through the tall, narrow windows of the courthouse, painting streaks of gold across a highly polished marble floor. The air is thick with tension. A mix of antiseptic and faint coffee lingers as the family files in. Kody Brown sits at the defendant's table, his shoulders tense, fingers interwoven so tightly that the knuckles of his hands stand out like small white stones. He tries to steady his breathing, but every small movement draws the eyes of his wives and the spectators in the courtroom toward him. Robin, seated closest to him, looks up briefly, and her gaze is sharp, almost accusatory. Her lips are pressed together in a thin line, revealing the mix of anger and apprehension churning inside her. Her hands are neatly folded on her lap, but her fingers quiver, showing the storm that is building up inside. Across the room, Christine leans back in her chair, arms crossed, a piercing gaze fixed on Kody. Confident, almost predatory, she is daring him, it seems, to falter under the scrutiny. Janelle sits quietly beside her with a faint furrow in her brow, her hands clasping a small notebook in which she's been scribbling observations, memories, and emotions like a diary of a family in chaos. Mary's face is composed but pale, the weight of anticipation pressing down upon her chest as she clutches her bag against her lap. The judge enters, his robes swishing with the confidence of authority, and immediately the room falls into a hush. The only sound is the soft shuffling of papers and the whisper of heels across the marble. "We are here today to address the matters concerning the Brown family dispute," he begins, his voice calm but carrying an undeniable weight. Cameras in the back whir, their lenses following every movement, every subtle shift of expression. Reporters scribble furiously, attempting to capture the tension in words before the drama even fully unfolds. Kody fidgets in his seat, his body showing a spasm of tension, as if the weight of the moment were too heavy for him to bear. "Your Honor, he begins, his voice tight, faltering ever so slightly. Christine doesn't waste a single moment on courtesy. She cuts him off, her voice sharp, controlled, and cold. "Let's not pretend this is about justice, Kody. This is about finally telling the truth." Her eyes lock onto his, unyielding, a silent accusation that seems to pierce straight through him. Janelle leans forward slightly, voice soft but resolute. "We all deserve answers," she whispers, almost to herself. "No more lies. No more hiding. No more pretending everything is fine." The courtroom shifts again, and the first witness is called. A former, close family friend, a person who had been on the outside but privy to the Brown family's private struggles, steps up to the stand. They are cautious, measured, but their words have an undercurrent of tension that ripples through the room. "There have been situations," the witness begins in a low voice, "that no one outside this family would ever believe. Mismanagement of finances, emotional neglect, secret alliances." The words hang in the air, like a storm cloud, each adding weight to an already tense atmosphere. Kody's eyes dart momentarily to Robin, in search of some sign of support, some glimmer of reassurance. Her gaze is unyielding, cold, yet hurt. Christine reacts with an almost imperceptible smirk, a small curl of satisfaction on her lips, while Janelle sits in frozen disbelief. The room is heavy with unsaid accusations, unsaid fear, and the perception that things can never go back to normal. The witness speaks in a deliberately slow manner, allowing the details to emerge piecemeal until a picture crystallizes of the family cut asunder by secrets, lies, and deceit. There were hidden meetings, late-night phone calls, and financial decisions based on a non-existent consensus. Each revelation is like a layer peeled away from the fragile construct of a family perched on the edge between collapse and nothingness. Robin's hands clench in her lap, and her lips part slightly, as if she has something to say but can't find the words. Christine's eyes never leave Kody's face, scanning it for a micro-expression, a tick of discomfort, or flicker of fear. Janelle nips the inside of her lip, trying to contain a tremble that threatens to betray her. Even Mary, who has mostly maintained composure in public, seems to shrink inward slightly, the weight of the testimony pressing down on her shoulders. The judge leans forward slightly, eyes narrowing at the witness, as if every word might carry within it the weight of potential ruin. "Do you have proof of these allegations?" he asks, his voice deliberate, measured, firm. The witness nods and slides a folder across the table toward the court clerk. Inside are documents, messages, financial statements, evidence carefully gathered over the course of months. The clerk passes them to the judge, who opens and examines them, his eyes narrowing infinitesimally. The air gets thicker with every second that passes, as the courtroom collectively realizes the magnitude of what is about to unfold. Kody swallows hard, feeling the weight of his world shifting under his feet. His mind races, trying to work out the damage, to predict what the fallout might be. But with every passing second comes the dawning realization that, perhaps now, he may no longer be in a position to control the storyline. Robin's breathing becomes audible, shallow, tense. She leans slightly forward. Her eyes shine with emotion, a mix of sorrow and rage. "I never wanted it to come to this," she whispers, almost too quietly for anyone but herself to hear. "But we all deserve the truth." Christine's eyes narrow. Finally, the lies unravel. She seems to say, her voice barely audible. The witness takes a deep breath slowly. "There is more," he says in a whisper, yet the volume carries through the courtroom. "Much more than any of you realize." A ripple of shock passes through the room. Janelle's hands tighten around her notebook, and Mary's fingers tremble slightly as she grips her bag. Kody's face pales, color draining rapidly, as fear and anticipation collide within him. The tension is almost unbearable. The judge's gavel comes down sharply, cutting through the murmur of reactions. "We will recess briefly," the judge announces, "and reconvene shortly." As individuals start filing out of the courtroom, the hallway outside turns into a storm of whispers, speculation, and curiosity. Reporters jot down notes furiously in eagerness to capture the unfolding drama. Family members exchanged glances loaded with unspoken words, eyes reflecting fear, frustration, and uncertainty. Kody remains seated, hands clenched, staring at the folder of documents before him, as though they are a tangible representation of everything he's lost. Robin moves towards him slowly, her footsteps deliberate, but she says nothing. The tension between them is palpable. Christine walks by, a little victorious smirk upon her face, while Janelle follows behind, her face etched with a shadow of worry. Mary's silent reserve gives way to a slight headshake, the weight of the moment palpable in each line of her face. Even during the brief recess, this courtroom appears alive with anticipation. Every conversation in a whisper, every glance exchanged, is laced with possibilities of consequences that will impact someone. Each family member knows nothing will ever again be the same once the session resumes. Then, almost imperceptibly, a piece of evidence is quietly passed to the judge. A note, a photograph, small yet powerful enough to turn the entire case in a different direction. Kody catches it, his eyes widening and heart pounding, the room holding its breath in anticipation. The storm has only just begun, and the first session of this courtroom drama is already leaving scars that may never fully heal. The courtroom feels heavier than before, almost suffocating. The doors swing open, and the families return. The echo of footsteps fills the space with anticipation. The folder from the previous session sits in front of the judge, a tangible reminder of the storm that is to continue. Kody shifts uncomfortably, his tension visible within the way his shoulders are set, even his slight trembling. A glance at Robin, her body upright, posture tense, fingers clasped tightly in her lap, a subtle display of both anxiety and determination. Christine sits calmly, cold as glass, her eyes never leaving Kody's face. A silent message that she's watching, waiting for any misstep. Jamel's hands are fidgeting in her lap, in some nervous rhythm, twisting her notebook. Mary looks pale. Now and then, her head jerks sideways toward the gallery, as if she's searching for an exit from emotional pressure that seems to bear down on everyone in the room. The judge clears their throat, and it cuts through the murmurs in the room. We will resume proceedings. We are going to review the next piece of evidence to be presented, followed by testimony of a witness. The words hang in the air like an ominous sign. Cameras click, reporters scribble down notes, and a hush washes over the gallery. The first witness is called, a person who has been privy to, and indeed has handled, many of the Brown family's most personal and financial matters for years. They approach the stand, hands shaking slightly, take a deep breath, and begin. I have been with the Brown family for over a decade, the witness begins, voice firm, but laced with underlying tension. In that time, I've observed patterns, decisions, and behaviors that I believe are relevant to this case. There are emails, meetings, and financial decisions that were kept from some members of this family, decisions perhaps with serious consequences. Kody swallows hard, his pulse quickening. Every word feels like a weight pressed onto him. He looks at Robin for some sign of support and sees only a mix of hurt and resolve. Christine leans back in her chair slightly, a half-smile tugging at the corner of her lips, a subtle expression of vindication. The witness continues, pulling out a series of printed emails and showing them to the judge and the attorneys. These communications, he says, his voice shaking slightly now with emotion, reflect a level of secrecy and manipulation that none of you may have realized. Decisions were made in private, discussions held behind closed doors, and alliances formed without knowledge of the family patriarch. Robin leans forward, her hands trembling slightly as she grips her notebook. I don't understand. Why would this happen? She whispers under her breath, voice barely audible. Christine's eyes gleam, watching Kody closely, the silent message clear. This is exactly what I've been waiting for. The courtroom feels like it's holding its breath. Even the reporters seem to pause, as if knowing the weight of the revelations about to unfold. Kody rises slowly, his voice barely steady. Your Honor, I never intended things to reach this point. Everything I did, I thought I was protecting my family. I never meant for anyone to be hurt. Christine scoffs, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Protecting or controlling? The words just hang in the air, sharp as an accusation, with no room for denial. Janelle fidgets in her chair, the emotions swirling around her, like some sort of storm from which she cannot escape. The witness continues, describing clandestine meetings and private conversations that indicate certain wives had been in communication with each other in secret, forging silent alliances that Kody didn't know about. With each revelation, the tension mounts. Each word makes the air in the courtroom a little thicker. Kody's face drains white as he names dates and names, understanding how much has been orchestrated behind his back. After the testimony from the witness, the plaintiff's attorneys introduce additional documents, bank statements, receipts, and more emails. Each one seems innocuous enough until brought into context, where they hint at the level of manipulation and secrecy that shakes the foundation of Kody's world. Christine leans forward and whispers something to Robin, and a quick, imperceptible nod is exchanged between them, representing the alliance that forms wordlessly in the courtroom shadows. Kody's attorney gets up and tries to refute this testimony, pointing out gaps in the timeline and how things could have been misinterpreted. But the energy in the courtroom has shifted. The audience, the wives, even the judge can feel the emotional weight pressing down, a collective anticipation of some revelation that seems inevitable. Janelle's eyes glisten with unshed tears. I never thought it could be this bad," she mutters softly. Mary shifts uncomfortably in her chair. The tension manifests physically as she tightens her grip on her bag. The wives glance at each other, a reflection of mixed fear, anger, and disbelief etched on their faces. Suddenly, the doors to the courtroom open. A clerk enters with another folder, slipping it to the judge in a quiet but very deliberate motion. The room quiets instantly, every eye fixed on the judge as they open it. The contents, a series of private messages and emails, are distributed carefully, each piece seemingly raising the stakes higher than the one before it. Kody's hands shake slightly as he takes in the first message. His lips part, but no words come out immediately. Robin reaches out, touching his arm lightly, a gesture of both support and admonishment. Christine's lips press into a thin line, eyes narrowing with anticipation. Janelle's notebook is forgotten as she leans forward, her entire focus on the unfolding evidence. The judge carefully reads through the messages, calling out particular lines aloud for the courtroom to hear. Some of the messages insinuate financial manipulations, while others purport secret communications between other wives concerning strategies to manipulate Kody himself. The room erupts in audible gasps, whispers, and murmurs of disbelief. The air feels electric, each second stretching as tension rises. Kody finally speaks up, his voice quivering but steadfast. I never realized how much was happening behind my back. I thought I was keeping this family together, protecting everyone." His words seem to hang in the air, almost inaudible over the charged silence. Christine rises slowly, her presence commanding attention. "Protecting? No, Kody. This isn't protection. This is deception. And now the truth is finally out in the open." Her voice resounds within the courtroom, an amalgamation of anger, triumph, and vindication. The judge leans forward with a calm but authoritative voice. "We will briefly recess. When we come back, other witnesses will testify about the ramifications of these communications." As the session breaks, the wives and family members slowly file out. Robin is pale, but set, her feelings well hidden. Christine passes by Kody, an almost imperceptible smirk playing on her lips, saying everything with no words. Janelle follows silently, her mind a turmoil of questions, doubts, and fear. Mary is taken aback, hesitates, then exits with caution, looking back into the courtroom. The hallway outside is a flurry of hushed, whispered conversations. Reporters frantically scribble down every word, catching every nuance. Whispers of betrayal, manipulation, and secrets ripple throughout the room, creating an almost tangible buzz of tension. Even the audience that has had to view from afar can feel the gravity of what is about to transpire. Back inside, Kody sits quietly, staring at the table in front of him. His mind races through every decision, every conversation, and every private moment he can recall. For the first time, he feels genuinely uncertain, vulnerable, and exposed. It hits him like a storm. This is far bigger than any single argument or misunderstanding. This is a storm, and it has only just begun. The air is almost suffocatingly heavy in the courtroom. A silence heavier than ever dwells upon the people present within it. Kody sits rigid, hands clasped so tightly that the knuckles whiten, eyes darting nervously between the judge and his wives. Robin sits beside him, her posture tense, her gaze firm and yet conflicted. Her fingers tap lightly on the edge of the table, betraying the swirl of emotions inside. Anger, disbelief, and a deep longing for answers. Christine leans back in her chair. A small smirk plays upon her lips as sharp eyes stare at Kody, relishing every moment of his discomfort. Janelle grips her notebook, and her knuckles are white against the leather cover. Her forehead furrows, a testament to the tug-of-war between her composure and emotion. Mary's skin has turned pale, and she doesn't move a muscle. She won't look at Kody directly, but instead glances sideways toward the gallery, as if she might disappear into the sea of people. The judge clears his throat, breaking the heavy silence, and says, "We shall now hear the next witness." The sound of the gavel goes sharply around the room, drawing all eyes forward. The hush falls on the spectators. Everybody knows that what is about to be revealed could change everything. The witness approaches, a long-time family confidant, someone with intimate knowledge of the Browns' private interactions. The witness steps up, shaking very noticeably, and takes a deep breath. "I have been with the Brown family for many years," the witness begins in a low but steady voice. "I have seen moments, conversations, and decisions that no one outside this family could imagine. Secrets were kept, alliances formed, and actions taken without Kody's knowledge that have dramatically impacted this family." Kody leans back slightly, his jaw tightening. His hands fidget under the table. Robin shifts in her seat, as if the very words are hitting her in waves. Christine's gaze is sharp, unyielding, almost predatory, while she watches Kody struggle with every sentence. Janelle's hands tighten around her notebook. Mary bites her lip, unable to fully mask the shock on her face. The witness continues, recounting hidden conversations and late-night meetings between the wives. Certain decisions had been made in secret. Financial choices, personal strategies, and subtle manipulations, without Kody being aware of them. Every detail is meticulously presented, each revelation peeling back layers of deception and leaving the Brown family visibly shaken. Robin's hands are shaking as she clutches her notebook. I never imagined this," she whispers softly, her eyes wide with incredulity. Christine leans slightly forward, the smirk in her lips growing more confident. "Finally," she murmurs under her breath, "the truth is coming out." Janelle swallows hard, her face pale from the weight of every revelation. Mary's fingers clench her bag tightly, knuckles white with the shock and fear that fills her mind. Kody rises slowly, voice trembling as he speaks. "Your Honor, I never intended for anything like this to happen. I've only ever wanted to keep this family together. I thought I was protecting everyone." Christine cuts him off, abruptly standing. "Protecting? No, Kody, this isn't protection. This is control. And the truth is finally catching up to you." Her words cut through the tense air. The courtroom holds its collective breath as they resound. The witness pulls out a folder, slides it across the table to the judge. Inside are photos, messages, and letters of obvious documentation of secret alliances between the wives. Kody's face pales, eyes widening in realization of the depth of betrayal. Robin's hand stops over her mouth, stifling a gasp. Christine leans back, her posture smug, satisfied, almost as if she has been waiting for this moment her entire life. Janelle's hands shake slightly, notebook forgotten, as she leans forward, absorbing every detail. The judge goes through the documents carefully, reading out loud pieces of the private communications. Some are hinting at financial manipulation, others at deliberate strategies to influence Kody. Gasps echo across the room alongside whispered comments. Everyone has their eyes on Kody, who is visibly fighting to take in the betrayal being laid bare in front of him. Kody's defense attorney stands up and argues against the evidence. Your Honor, while these messages exist, their context is misleading. They do not show any intent to harm, nor do they prove any wrongdoing on the part of my client. Christine frowns, inclining her head toward Robin. Don't let him fool you, she whispers, sharpness etched in her tone. This is just what I have been trying to tell you all along. Janelle looks down at her notebook, hands trembling, as she flips through pages filled with observations and emotional notes. How could I have been so blind? She murmurs under her breath. Mary leans back slightly, the color draining from her face as she takes in the testimony. The witness steps down, but the room doesn't relax. It is highly charged, and the tension can be felt. Cameras capture each twitch, each small glance, and each strained expression. All of this weight can be felt by the spectators. Then, out of nowhere, the courtroom doors burst open. A clerk, quiet as can be, enters with yet another folder and hands it to the judge. The room falls silent again. All eyes are on what it might say. As the judge opens the folder, messages inside show a connection no one saw coming, an indirect alliance between two wives that could completely change the dynamics in this case. Kody leans forward, his voice barely audible. This can't be happening, he murmurs. Robin sets a gentle hand on his arm, her eyes wide in fear and caution. Christine's smirk widens, eyes gleaming in satisfaction. Janelle covers her mouth briefly with her hand as her eyes well up with tears while she processes the revelation. Mary's face is motionless, her mind racing to comprehend the depth of the betrayal unfolding before her. With the request for a recess from the bench, the families file out of the courtroom at a snail's pace, the weight of the testimony hanging over them like a storm cloud. Outside, the hallway is alive with whispers, flashes from cameras, and the rustle of papers. Reporters push to get every word, every reaction, but the Brown family is focused inward, their emotions a mix of shock, anger, and fear. Kody walks from the courtroom for a moment, his hands running through his hair, his eyes wide in disbelief. Robin follows much more slowly, her posture rigid, her face pale but determined. Christine passes by, nearly brushing Kody's shoulder on purpose, a smug, victorious look on her face. Janelle trails behind, quiet, her mind whirling, trying to comprehend this new layer of deception revealed to them in court. Mary walks last, hesitating and looking back toward the courtroom as if she cannot leave this drama behind. The session's revelations leave everyone in a state of turmoil. Alliances have been shifted, trust is broken, and the Brown family stands at the cusp of chaos. Kody's world has changed forever, and there is a palpable tension between the wives. And as the next session is promised to reveal even more, everyone knows their lives will never be the same after it. Inside the courtroom, the judge is silently going over the documents in preparation for the next witness. Every individual in the courtroom felt the anticipation, the lull before the storm. The air was electric, every look, every murmur, every word filled with emotion and unspoken tension. Kody leaned back, trying to steady his breathing, but his heart raced as he knew this was only the beginning of the storm. The courtroom seems to hold its breath. Every whisper, every rustle of paper, every soft scuff of a shoe reverberates through the high-ceilinged room. Kody sits at the defendant's table, his hands pressed tightly together, his jaw clenched. staring down at the table as though the world could be paused if he simply willed it so. Robin sits beside him, her eyes glistening, her lips pressed in a thin line, as though every word spoken in this courtroom is slowly breaking her heart. Christine leans back in her chair almost casually, yet her eyes are sharp, focused, and calculating. There's a satisfaction there, subtle but unmistakable, that seems to cut right through Kody. Janelle's hands twist her notebook in nervous rhythm. Her face is pale, her eyes wide, and her lips slightly trembling. Mary says nothing, but almost freezes, hands clasped tightly in her lap, fingers white because of pressure. She does not glance up at Kody, perhaps fearing to see reflected there her own emotions. The tension in the room is thick and palpable, like smoke hanging in the air. The judge clears his voice, breaking the silence with authority. We will now review the evidence brought forward by the plaintiffs, including digital communications and recorded material that has been deemed admissible. The words hang in the air, the weight of their importance pressing down on everyone present. Cameras whir quietly. Reporters scribble furiously. But all eyes remain fixed on the unfolding drama. A clerk approaches and hands the judge a sealed folder. The room falls even quieter as he opens it carefully. Kody shifts in his seat, almost imperceptibly, his lips pressing together tightly. Robin's fingers tighten around her notebook. Christine's smirk becomes a little more pronounced, as if she already knows what these documents will do. Janelle leans forward just a little, breath caught in her chest. Even Mary seems to stiffen, her face pale, the air thick with anticipation. The first file inside the folder is a video recording. The room's reaction is immediate. The screen flickers to life, showing a dimly lit room, Kody talking in private with one of his wives. First and foremost, at least from the first look, the conversation seems trivial and almost normal. As the video unfolds, the hidden motives, subtle manipulations, and tension that had been carefully hidden seem to come across in tone and content. Kody's hands shake slightly as he watches himself on the screen, hearing words that he felt were private, laid bare for everyone to see. Robin's lips open slightly, as if she wants to speak but can't. Christine leans forward, eyes narrowing, absorbing it all. The satisfaction in her gaze almost palpable. Janelle bites her lip in an attempt to suppress a reaction that she knows will reveal her turmoil. Mary's hand quivered very slightly on her bag, her breathing shallow, as her mind worked out how to grasp the implications. The next witness takes the stand to explain the video and nervously adjusts their notes. Your Honor, while the video depicts interactions that appear benign, context suggests deeper involvement in decisions impacting numerous family members. They explain. The courtroom reacts immediately. Ripples of murmurs flush throughout the audience. Kody's heart speeds up as he realizes the potential consequences that could result from this single recording. Robin leans into him, whispering softly, Kody, we have to face this together. Her voice is calm but full of emotion. Kody looks at her, his eyes wide, and nods ever so slightly, registering her words. Christine's eyes never leave him. This is the moment. She whispers under her breath to Janelle. Everything falls into place now. The judge starts playing specific clips from the recording, stopping at intervals to point out several statements and gestures that may be perceived as manipulative. Kody's body goes rigid, each muscle taut as the video continues playing. Robin briefly closes her eyes, readying herself. Christine hunches forward, her eyes shining with triumph. Janelle swallows hard, fingers clenching her notebook. Mary's knuckles whiten as she grasps her purse tightly, her face almost ghostly beneath the courtroom lights. The plaintiff's attorney rises, voice sharp, commanding. Your Honor, this video shows evidence of the pattern we've been talking about here. Decisions made behind closed doors. Conversations to manipulate outcomes without all parties being aware of what is taking place. This is precisely why the family has suffered so. The words hang in the air like an axe, waiting to drop. Kody's defense attorney quickly rises, trying to explain context, but the mood in the courtroom has shifted. Everyone who watches knows at this moment that the case has changed course because of this video. Robin shifts in her seat, looking at Kody with a sad yet resolute expression. How did it come to this? She whispers low, her voice shaking. Christine's expression is unreadable but incisive, almost surgical in its acuteness. Janelle leans forward, lips pursed, eyes wide with the enormity of what's taking place in this moment. Mary bites her lip, hands clenching tightly, unable to hide the storm brewing inside. As the weight of the video settles over the courtroom, yet another bombshell erupts. A private note is presented to the judge, hand-delivered so no one else sees its contents. The judge reads it quickly and narrows his eyes slightly as he looks up. This note contains information that could significantly alter the understanding of events depicted in the video, the judge says, and the room gasps, followed by a strained silence. Kody turns white, breathing fast, while Robin's hands grip each other tighter in her lap. Christine's eyes shine in anticipation. Janelle swallows hard. Mary seems frozen in shock, unable even to blink as the reality hits. The next witness to be sworn in has literally spent years privy to every detail of the family's inner machinations, and their testimony is devastating, revealing private conversations and discussions of decisions that contrast directly with what Kody believed was occurring within his family. There were secret alliances between wives, plans regarding how to steer Kody toward desired decisions, and manipulation of financial and emotional situations. Kody stands up slowly, shaking, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know. I didn't realize this was happening, he stammered out, almost to himself. Robin places a gentle hand on his arm, a gesture of support and admonishment in one. Christine leans back in her chair, the smirk still upon her face, the satisfaction barely concealed. Janelle closes her eyes briefly, taking in a shaky breath, while Mary's hands shake as she clasps her bag tightly. The tension is electric in the courtroom. It's almost unbearable. Every movement, every glance, every whispered conversation has meaning. The witness continues her testimony, which may irrevocably shatter relationships and family trust. Kody listens, his eyes wide, his jaw clenched, his heart racing, as each word cuts deeper than any gavel strike. The judge stops, allowing the weight of this testimony to sink in. We will recess for the day, he says, and reconvene tomorrow to continue with further evidence. The gavel comes down sharply, the final punctuation of a session heavy with emotion, betrayal, and suspense. The hall is filled with whispers, like a storm, outside the courtroom. Reporters capture every reaction. Kody walks very slowly, with his shoulders slumped, Robin at his side, who has fear and determination mixed in her expression. Christine passes by, smirk still on her face. Every look full of meaning, without uttering anything. Janelle follows quietly, trying to process the heaviness of the session. Mary lags, hesitates, and looks back at the courtroom as if she doesn't want to leave the drama inside. Even in the fleeting moment just before the next day, the energy remains thick, Alliances have crumbled. Trusts are broken. The Brown family is beset with a tempest of emotion and tension, unlike any they have known. Kody's confidence is shaken. The wives' strategies and secrets are slowly being unveiled, and the courtroom feels like a pressure cooker about to explode. The next morning, the courthouse feels even heavier than before. A quiet intensity hangs over the room, almost suffocating. Every face in the courtroom is tense. Every movement is deliberate. Kody sits at the defendant's table, jaw tight, eyes flicking from the judge to his wives and back again, as though trying to predict the storms of revelation about to hit. His hands tremble slightly, gripping the edge of the table as if it were a lifeline. Robin sits beside him, her posture rigid, her fingers clasped tightly in her lap. Her eyes were moist, shining with unshed tears, but her face was fierce. She wanted answers, and she was ready to hear truths she may have long feared. Christine slouches back in her chair, the smirk faint but visible, her eyes sharp, calculating, like a hawk watching its prey. Janelle clutches her notebook, the pages dog-eared from use, tension radiating through her body. Mary sits motionless, almost statuesque, her skin pale, lips pressed tight, hands trembling very slightly as she clutches her bag. The judge clears his throat, and the room is brought to immediate attention. We will now proceed with further witness testimony and additional evidence concerning the family dynamics and private communications. The words hang in the air, each one adding weight to the already tense atmosphere. Cameras click, pens scratch on notepads, and everyone leans slightly forward, anticipating what is to come. First called is the longtime family employee, previously in charge of matters both personal and financial. Nervous, shaking hands fiddle with notes as they approach the stand. During my time with the Brown family, the witness begins in a low but firm voice. I observed interactions, private discussions, and decisions that were never disclosed to all parties. Some decisions, while appearing minor, had major consequences on family dynamics and trust. Kody's hands shake slightly as he leans forward, attempting to make sense of the statement. Robin shifts beside him, eyes wide, heart pounding, fear and anticipation mingling in her chest. Christine leans forward slightly, eyes sharp, lips pressed in a thin line of satisfaction. Janelle bites her lip, trying to contain the surge of emotion, while Mary's pale hands grip her bag tightly, knuckles whitening. The witness now produces a series of emails, private messages, and photographs, sliding them across the table for the judge to review. Each document reveals a picture of hidden alliances, secret meetings, and subtle manipulations that few, even within the family, could have imagined. Kody's face pales as he reads the first message, realizing how deep some of his decisions were influenced without his awareness. Robin's hand goes to her mouth, as if stifling a gasp. I never expected this, she whispers, her voice trembling. Christine leans in, eyes glinting, savoring every moment. Finally, she mutters under her breath, the truth is out. Janelle places a hand on her chest, her breathing shallow and slow, trying to absorb the impact. Mary tightens her grip on her bag, jaw stiffening, watching the proceedings with a pale face. The judge carefully reviewed the evidence presented, pointing out specific emails out loud. Some suggest clandestine financial maneuvering, while others hint at subtle strategies orchestrated between the wives, aiming to influence Kody's decisions and manipulate the family dynamic. Each revelation adds layer upon layer of tension to the courtroom. Fear, anger, and disbelief in equal measure. Kody gets up slowly, his voice shaking. I never knew. I didn't know this was going on, he whispers. Robin reaches out and places a comforting hand on his arm, supportive, but silently reminding him of accountability. Christine leans back, her smirk widening just a little. Janelle closes her eyes for a moment, breathing in shaky lungfuls, while Mary's hands shake, her knuckles white on her bag. As the session proceeds, the atmosphere will become increasingly charged. Another witness is called, this one closer to the family, with intimate knowledge of the wives. Private interactions. Their testimony is emotionally raw, describing conversations and decisions that question trusts, loyalty, and Kody's understanding of his own family. They reveal secret plans and whispered strategies, revealing fractures that had been hidden for years. Robin leans forward slightly, her voice breaking as she whispers, "I can't believe this. All this time." Christine's sharp eyes never leave Kody, a mixture of triumph and vindication on her face. Janelle's lips are quivering as she whispers under her breath, "How could we have been so blind?" Mary swallows hard, trembling as she struggles to maintain composure. This proves to be one of the most damning pieces of evidence thus far. Several voice recordings between two of the wives strategizing and speaking about Kody's reactions when he is not around. The recordings are soft, almost mundane in tone, but what they reveal is the depth of deception and manipulation. Kody's face goes white as the words echo in the courtroom. Robin's eyes well with tears. Christine leans back, a smirk barely contained. Janelle lets out a soft gasp, while Mary clutches her bag, as if holding on to it will keep her anchored. Kody's defense attorney gets up to object, to add context. But the emotional weight in this courtroom is overwhelming. The wives' reactions, the testimony of the witness presenting them, and those documents have changed the scale. Even the judge seems to take a moment, digesting fully before proceeding. Robin leans in toward Kody, the quiet whisper, "We have to face this together. Can't let it destroy us." Kody nods slowly, swallowing hard. His wide eyes reveal disbelief and hurt. Christine's gaze catches the scene, and satisfaction flickers in her look. Janelle presses a hand on her forehead, easing the storm in her head. Mary's face has gone white, her hands are trembling, and her mind is racing. As the session progresses, subtle tension rises between the wives themselves. Alliances shift, and quiet whispers exchanged between Robin and Christine hint that while they may have been united against Kody's secrecy, they each are processing their own grievances and strategies. The courtroom becomes a charged theater of emotion, strategy, and revelation. The judge calls for a brief recess, and the families exit the courtroom slowly. The hallway is alive with whispers, camera flashes, and murmurs of disbelief. Kody walks with his head low, Robin at his side, her face a mixture of sorrow and resolve. Christine walks past, casting a sideways glance at Kody with a faint smirk, satisfaction barely hidden. Janelle follows wordlessly, trying to process the emotional intensity of the session. Mary trails behind, hesitant, looking back at the courtroom, as if not quite able to leave the drama unfolding within. The weight of the evidence presented in this session leaves everyone unsettled. Trust has been fractured. Alliances have shifted. Emotional wounds are open and bleeding. Kody remains in a state of vulnerability, trying to work out how strongly embedded deception is in his family. Each wife struggles with her unique combination of feelings: betrayal, anger, fear. Each knows that life will never be the same.